and welcome to High Point Music's gear reviews. I'm Lewis, and today I'm going to take you through the Electro Harmonix POG2. The POG2 is an octave pedal capable of up to 5 voices, 2 octaves below, 2 octaves above, and the dry guitar sound, and it's used to create extra tones on top of your guitar sound, very much like a guitar or very much sounding like other instruments. So it's a pretty great pedal if you're looking to add some thickness to some riffs you're playing, get some synth or some organ-like sounds, which could be used for some country or alternative kind of music. The riff stuff is, the octave stuff in riffs is really good for heavy fuzz, I've found. So it's pretty good for funk, getting those tight little guitar riffs together to make them sound just a little bit thicker, and therefore the same goes for anything you're going to be playing a tight guitar riff in. So across the board, it's a pretty great pedal for most guitarists to check out and maybe add to their board. So let's check it out. So I'll quickly run you through our connections. My guitar is plugged into the input of the POG. The output of the POG is connected to our 2 notes clean that's doing our amp in our room sounds, and I am running it off a power supply. This pedal does not use batteries at all, so you will need to pick up one of the power supplies in the link below to run it. It needs about 200 milliamps, so the one spot we'll use will be more than enough. I'll run you through the controls and show you what they do. The first slider is the dry output, which is our normal guitar level. Turn that up. Sort of 2 lines from the top's about unity. You can do some boost with this as well, so you can use it just as a boost sound or to diminish your guitar volume a little bit if it's a bit loud on something. The second slider is our 2 octaves below slider. Just by itself. Back. Our second slider, or our second generated slider, is the 1 octave below. Just by itself. The next is 1 octave above. With the dry as well. And the last of the generated octave sliders is 2 octaves above. With some dry. And it does work on chords as well, so something a little bit less harsh than just straight 2 octaves up. So you can use all of those sliders at once or any combination of them to get your octave sound. They do work well with each other, and if you're finding that it sounds a little bit harsh on the upper octaves, we've got a few effects controls over here that can help that. So the first is our Tack Control and the effects parameters, and the Tack Control slows the swell of the affected or the generated signals. So to go from this to this. You can hear it volume swelling like those octaves in. So you can put it anywhere, but it's really good just to slow the attack of those first few notes. Just takes the edge off a little bit and helps to declutter the amount of notes you're playing. The next effect slider is our low pass filter, which is basically a treble cut. where it cuts all that affected signal out. So I tend to use it somewhere kind of near the top. I like as much of that frequency coming through, but it's a really good way to dull that top end frequency response down a little bit. The next slider is our Detuned Slider. Now it's only relevant to the 2 octaves up and the 1 octave up sliders. You can get it to work on the dry, but I'll talk about that in a minute. It sounds like this. Maybe if I take those octaves down, it's a bit easier to hear. So you can hear quite a bit of modulation in there. It's just a great way to change the texture of those upper octaves and make it sound a bit more musical. So the detune, the low pass filter and the attack sliders in this particular mode only run on your affected signals. So the detune's on the 2 octaves above and the 1 octave above, and the attack and the low pass filters work on everything as well as those 2 octaves. If we push this button here, it takes us through to the first mode where your dry signal is run through the attack control. So if we crank that all the way up, you'll hear now that it's including the dry signal in its volume fade. So great as some swell sounds. I use a lot of this swell sound and I like to put a little bit of 1 octave above just to take back a little bit of brightness that happens as the volume from your playing diminishes. So normally you get a nice quick attack. The 1 octave above just adds a little bit of bite back in. The next effect mode runs all of those sliders, 2 octaves below, 1 octave below, 1 octave above, and 2 octaves above, including the dry through the down tune or the low pass filter. The dry being affected by the low pass filter means that everything that runs through there is now affected. Working very much like you were playing a guitar that had 8 strings or something. The third mode runs the 2 octaves above and your dry signal through the detune, as well as all the other effects through the low pass and the attack. So you can hear that little shimmery warble on top. I'll just take those octaves out. And the 2 octaves above. You can hear that almost chorus-like effect. So even without using the octave generated signal, you can get a pretty good chorusy sound as well as a volume swell sound. You don't have to go too crazy with the sliders and settings straight away. That's the basic rundown. The only button left is our Q control, and what that does is it shapes the tone of the low pass filter. It steps through 4 stages of going from a very smooth pass to a very abrupt pass. So we're going to go something like, take the detune down. Until we get back to the normal response. So probably a lot more subtle effect on just the guitar, but with some of the octaves in there, you can really tune that low pass filter up and make it work for you. So they're the basic sounds or the basic operations. I'll go through some of my settings and show you some of the presets. So the first setting I'll show you through is just a basic volume swell. As I mentioned earlier, it's mostly dry guitar, but I've got a little bit of 1 octave mixed in. The faders are not what the presets are set to, so I'll post some links to that in the blog. Really great as a volume swell. Maybe you don't have a strap with a volume pot right where your hand is. It's a great little feature. The next one is a bit of a theremin sound I like to use. So it's a little bit quicker attack and a little bit more octave mixed in. The next one is a pipe organ-like sound. So lots of those extra octaves effects in, and there's quite a bit of the detune function going on there as well. So you can do anything from a octave riff to a volume swell to a boost to some organ sounds and a few weird instruments in between. It really makes the POG a pretty versatile pedal to be added to anyone's pedal board. Particularly good if you're maybe a 2-guitar band. This gives you some options that you can make sounds that the other guitarist may be too busy to do, or gives you the ability to really create some interesting layers. It does work reasonably well on other instruments, and the upper octaves do work well on bass. There are a few bands around that are using it to give some extra oomph to the bottom end of the bass player, so it's probably a pedal that could be for anyone. If that anyone is you, follow the links below and get one for yourself. They're a pretty great pedal. Don't forget to check out the power supply, you will need it. If you're interested to hear a bit more about what this can do, check out our blog. I'll go into a bit more detail there. Follow our social media for some more videos, updates. We do appreciate the feedback, and I'll see you next time. Thank you.